Yep, I'm now taking glider lessons. I've been flying at Sky Sailing in Warner Springs. It's a private airport operated by just a great group of people. I've really enjoyed it. It's a beautiful area and something I've always wanted to do. So I'm transitioning from power aircraft to getting my glider certificate. Glider port operations are a real team effort. You'll have people helping you hook in for the tow plane, holding the wing, looking for traffic, and you soon realize this is a real community effort. A lot of fun, a lot of great people. By far the most demanding part of my training so far has been to fly in formation behind the tow plane. And I had heard that this was going to take a little bit of getting used to, or at least to do it really well. For a lot of reasons, you want to be really safe with this for your own safety as well as for the tow plane pilot. This was actually one of my better takeoffs, very stabilized. I will rotate a lot sooner than that tow plane, so I just stay in ground effect until the tow plane also becomes airborne, and then I just follow right behind. Obviously, any crosswinds, thermals, any turbulence is going to make it a little bit harder, but so far I have found it to be a lot of fun. As a transitioning pilot from a power to now gliders, it is a little bit more straightforward. However, in a sailplane, there's a whole lot of things to learn. It has its own set of urgencies, emergencies, unusual attitudes, things you need to know about, especially when you're behind this tow plane right now, and things you need to be able to correct, such as this slack tow line that the instructor is inducing. Okay, what do you do about that? It's not hard, but again, it's just a lot of things to learn. It's like driving a stick shift for the first time, a lot of things coming at you. But with more practice and experience, it's just becoming that much easier. So right now we're beyond the best thermally time of year, which is the summer, but we do catch a thermal here occasionally. We'd like to stay up as long as possible. The main goal is just to practice all these maneuvers. If we catch some thermals, that's great. We can practice those 360 turns. We fly to about an altitude of 3,000 feet above ground level, and you'll manually release from the tow plane. I'll make an immediate right level turn, and the tow plane will make a left turn, basically just staying out of each other's way. Once you're released from that tow plane, you just pitch down for the best glide or minimum sink or whatever maneuvering speed you want at that time, and immediately noticed that how quiet it became. It's really nice, and you can really key in on what your airspeed is, your pitch attitude, what you want just by the sound of the air. Obviously, you'll know when you're stalling when the sound goes away. So you don't want to do that. Eventually, of course, it's time to come into land, and with sailplanes, every landing is an engine out landing. And in gliders, you just do a normal pattern, just like you would in general aviation. I would say it's even more critical because you don't have the luxury of a go around. You really want to stabilize approach. You want to make sure of your altitudes. Now, what if you're landing somewhere and you don't know the mean sea level? Well, you got to look at it and you say, well, that's about right. And that literally is what you can do or will do and should do. You say, yeah, that's about right. And then you make your downwind, your base, final, just like in general aviation aircraft. So I've just made my 45-degree standard turn from downwind to base. Now I'm going from base to final. You've stabilized your airspeed. On this glider, you control your angle of descent by using air brakes. If you think you're too high, you just open up those air brakes. If you think, nope, I'm going to be a little short, then you let out those air brakes. Pretty much wanted half air brakes on base, and then base to final, you figure out, how am I doing here? It's a whole lot of fun. On this particular approach, I really was starting to feel pretty good. Again, I've had a few lessons so far, getting slowly better. On this particular landing, I had an aiming point in mind. I'm going for that, and then landing a little beyond it, you'll see my aiming point right about there, and I landed just a little beyond that, which was exactly what I wanted. I'd like to say this always happens. I did float a little bit here, but that's okay. I kept my angle, came down very smoothly, and landed just about where we wanted to, right where our takeoff point was. So one of the emergencies you really have to plan for in a sailplane, especially when you're doing a tow launch, is what if that line breaks? And that could break right down close to the ground. You just go straight for it to land. It could break at 200 feet, 300 feet, 500 feet. So what are you going to do? And one of the things that it really is impressed upon me is to be calling out those altitudes. And what would I do in this particular day if that tow line were to break right now? You have to say this particular day because there could be a strong headwind. We have taken off in a tailwind, and the procedure is going to differ. It might be that we want to go straight ahead. It might be that we want to do maybe a 90-degree turn and land, or come back, do a 180, or perhaps come back and do a normal or abbreviated pattern. So in this particular occasion, I know that my instructor is going to pull that tow free at 200 feet, and we've got quite a tailwind going to come back. We're taking off into a 10 to 15 knot wind right now. Takeoff was not as good as I would hope, but again, pretty stable. I'm calling out the altitudes now. As we're getting close to 100 feet, what would I do? Well, land straight ahead. How about as I'm getting close to 200 feet? Well, I know what I'm going to do. And as soon as that tow line is released at 200 feet, I'm going to make a quick left-hand turn, and I'm going to go back and land on the runway we just took off from. You can see the departure into that runway right below us there, and I'm just making a 45-degree turn, keeping up my airspeed. And this particular aircraft, it's around 50 miles an hour. I've got about a 10 to 15 knot tailwind that's pushing me that much faster over the ground, but my airspeed is still same, 50 miles an hour. So you just got to ignore that ground coming at you and going faster and faster. Also, in this case, since we do have that tailwind, as we slow down, I'm going to lose authority over those ailerons and rudder. So we're going to have to stop pretty quickly. As you can see here, we just put the brakes on, slide into home. That was a thrill. So there is a saying in the glider world, there are those pilots who have had a tow line break and those that will. So now with every takeoff procedure, that's what I do. I just keep calling out those altitudes, 100 feet, 200 feet, and so on. And what would I do? Because I know one of these days that instructor is going to pull it, and I'm not going to know when. And it may happen with my examiner too. So again, that's something you really have to keep in mind and anticipate it. So when it happens, there's no question what you're going to do. So I'm pretty close to soloing right now. I'm feeling very comfortable. Obviously, a few more lessons here, and then once I solo, a whole lot more training is going to take place. Eventually, I'd like to do some cross country, and though I know I've done that with paragliding, I had never done real extensive cross country flying. And in gliders, that's a whole new adventure, so I'm really looking forward to that. Some of you may be old enough to remember an old Disney episode called The Boy Who Flew with the Condors. I saw that when it first broadcast as a kid, and man, what an impression that made. I already loved airplanes, but seeing sailplanes, it just looked beautiful and something I've always wanted to do. So this is really a dream come true for me. Even though I've flown quite a few aircraft, this by far has just been my ultimate goal, I think, is to fly sailplanes and eventually do some cross country experience. I have a lot more to follow. I hope you found this interesting. However you get in the air and however you fly, just do it safely, and I'll catch you in the next one.